backstage, and it's dark back there, and they have this jug and these plastic cups for water. So I was like, I'll pour some water before I go out. I pour some water and take a sip, and I was like, this is really good water. I guess they must have mint in the jug. And then I look in the cup, and it was a cup that someone had spit their gum out in. So that just happened. Yeah. So yeah. If I puke on stage, that's why. So like Piers said, I spoke here in 2008, and Piers said, well, why don't you come back and talk for 5 minutes about what's changed in your world since then? So I went back and I watched that speech, and there were some very glaring things that are different. Like I used the phrase, teens on their BlackBerries, which I probably wouldn't use today. But but there were some other ones that were a little more subtle and interesting, so I thought I'd talk about those. Quick background on me. My friends and I started a bunch of web properties. College Humor was one, Vimeo was another, Busted Tees is a commerce site. We packaged them up, we sold them to a bigger company called IAC, and that's where I work today. I oversee this portfolio of content brands, so it's expanded from just College Humor, and that makes us the biggest digital comedy presence in the world. So as you can see, I've posted a bunch of 2008 images throughout these slides. The first thing I talked about in 2008 was the importance of editorial voice. And I pointed out how sites with personality behind them were winning out over their more bland counterparts. And I'm seeing that being just as true today, if not more true today, than it was back then. In fact, we're starting to see personality trumping out over websites themselves. If you think about Andrew Sullivan or Nate Silver or the All Things D gang, all these people left their old platforms to go out and do a new thing just based on themselves, and they kind of left the platform behind. Another reason why I think personality is more important now than it ever has been in digital media is that recently we've seen a glut of kind of these growth-hacked content sites pop up, and they kind of use Facebook and game Facebook to big traffic numbers. And all of these are essentially kind of Upworthy clones. But at the end of the day, I think this will become commoditized as kind of gaming of social. And the ones that stand out and the ones that last are going to be the ones with their own distinct point of view and an interesting take on things. This is that theory laid out statistically. As you can see, the more engaged your audience is, the more likely your reader is to return. The second thing that I talked about in 2008 was I posed this question. I said, when will the internet be able to not only create but retain on-screen talent? Meaning, when will stars of the internet no longer make it their goal to get off the internet and into TV and film? Well, to be honest, that certainly hasn't happened yet. Because the advertising revenue you'd get from starring in online video is rarely enough to make a good living, let alone sometimes even fund production. Internet stars continue to seek real paydays outside of that ecosystem. So the gatekeepers are still there, though they've taken on an additional form, and that's digitally. Netflix, Amazon, Xbox, Hulu, any entity with an existing subscriber base can make the investment to cold start a substantial video idea, especially from somebody unknown. So oddly enough, contrary to people's expectations, the gatekeepers didn't go away, they actually multiplied. But sooner or later, I think this TV factor could flip. It was interesting to see Comedy Central's very talented Key and Peele make a video on YouTube that basically begged their subscribers to watch them on TV and not just on the web. So the migration of young people to the web for video has only accelerated this trend. In 2008, I said, quote, just as how kids today can't tell the difference between cable and network, in 10 years they won't be able to tell the difference between programming on TV and what's coming in through IPTV. So IPTV is a phrase that didn't make it till 2014, but I think anybody in this audience with a young kid can testify to the fact that whether they're watching a cartoon on Netflix or on Cartoon Network, they don't really know, and they probably don't care either. The third thing I want to touch on is serialized content. In 2008, I talked a lot about web series. That phrase, web series, in digital media was a big phrase you'd hear all the time, but you don't hear it as much anymore. So why is that? Well, I think it all has to do with how distribution of content has changed. The advent of social has severely impacted, if not almost killed, serialized content on the web. When I say web, I'm not talking about Netflix or Hulu. I'm talking about specifically, the websites that you visit every day and you don't stream through your television. So why has this happened? Well, here's an example of a video we put out, right? This is part of a series, and it's the second episode of the third season of the series.
Kim Jong-un, my son.
Australia still stands in the way of my memorial centaur!
Kim Jong-un must die.
Whoever was controlling the cyborg is here. Mick Mouseland, Tokyo. If we are to remain undetected, we must try to blend in.
It's a show we do about Kim Jong-un, and it's really great. It's like a Saturday morning animated kid series, as if it were written, directed, and produced by Kim Jong-un and aired in North Korea. In one of my favorite episodes, President Obama and Bruce Willis build a wall around the United States because too many people are escaping to North Korea. But the problem is, now that content is distributed socially through Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, nobody shares the second episode of the third season of something because you have to you have to give your friends the background, you have to explain it, and there's a lot of friction in that process. So that's why we and a lot of other sites that we know are making fewer and fewer series and more one-offs. This is an example of a one-off we did. It's called If Google Were a Guy, and it's the opposite of a series. Maybe a few of you have seen this. This was a really successful one for us.
Next. Hello there.
Is today tomorrow New Zealand?
Yes.
Foot same length Europe?
What?
Inch same length Europe.
gmail.com. What is Bitcoin?
Butthole. Gross, fat, butthole, dick, poop.
Is that what kids are into these days? Are your parents home?
Sharing this video requires no additional context. You don't need to explain to your friends what happened in the episodes before it, because there are no episodes before it. You just need to share it. And that lack of friction will help get it seen by millions and millions of people. Another trend I touched on my first time here was this trend of digital media companies building up their own internal platforms to emulate popular social sites around the web. So you'd have like a magazine that would have their own social network where you could sign up and get points and all that. And back then I said, that's not a good idea because people don't want to sign up for 24 different social networks. They want to be able to use their Facebook ID or their Twitter ID and just log in everywhere. And I think that trend has pretty much died, and people have just accepted, okay, if you want to comment on the site, you can do so with your Facebook ID. So I think net-net, if you decide to let your content live everywhere and not just lock it up on your own site, you'll have overall more engagement, and you'll be able to capitalize on those platforms that people are actually using. So I liken this to, people's digital media consumption now to a buffet, opposed to a seated one-entree dinner. Your piece of content will be in a feed with other content of all types. Your dramatic video that you put out might be next to somebody's photo of their kid. So the goal is to keep people coming back for more by building up your brand, capturing their info, getting them to follow you on those platforms from which they came. And we decided to do that. We took our own advice in 2008, and we did that on YouTube. It was a time where everybody was debating, should we put our content on YouTube or not? And we said, let's do it because we can always take it down. And because we did, we got beachfront real estate and now have in a week or so, I think we'll become the biggest comedy channel on YouTube with over 2.5 billion views. So it's interesting that YouTube and Facebook have basically become the new MSOs, cable distributors. And the goal now is to become the MTV, or maybe even more fortunately, the HBO in that equation. And there's one last topic that I wanted to touch on when I look back at my 2008 speech, and that's technology and how it applies to media. Ken Lair, I think, put it best. He said, today technology isn't media's wingman, it is the man. And he couldn't have been more right. When I was here in 2008, it was enough for a media company to just have good content. And today, that content is almost secondary to the technology that gets it seen, optimizes the page it's on, surfaces related content, A/B tests the headlines. If you're going to start a media company today and you're a digital media company and not ready to pour millions into technology, I wouldn't bother because you'll just get eaten alive by the companies that can. But anyway, that's it. A lot has changed since the last time I was here, and I'm sure a lot will change in the next few years as well. That's it. Thank you.